My mother and sisters kicked my dad out, but the reason those mean ladies deeply regretted was their failure to see the silent sacrifices he made for our family. Growing up, tensions ran high in our household, with small arguments escalating into full-blown fights. One evening, after another heated dispute, my mother decided we'd be better off without my father, and my sisters eagerly agreed. They packed his bags and forced him to leave. Initially, they felt empowered and relieved, but soon the void my father left became painfully clear. Financial struggles, mounting responsibilities, and emotional strain took their toll. It was only after finding his meticulously kept bills and budget plans that they realized the extent of his contributions. Deep regret set in as they faced the harsh reality of their impulsive decision. Eventually, we reached out to him, seeking forgiveness and working to rebuild our fractured family. Hello, my friends. I hope all you are fine. This is Narrative Stories channel. Let's start this story. My name is Alex, and I grew up in a household that was anything but ordinary. My family consisted of my mother, my two sisters, and my father. From the outside, we appeared to be a typical family, but beneath the surface, there were cracks that would soon lead to a significant upheaval in our lives. The relationship between my mother and father had always been strained. My mother, a strong-willed and determined woman, often clashed with my father, who was more reserved and quiet. My sisters, Sarah and Emily, seemed to inherit my mother's fiery temperament, and they often sided with her in disputes. Tensions in our household had been escalating for months. Small arguments over finances, household chores, and parenting decisions grew into full-blown fights. My father, trying to keep the peace, often stayed silent, which only fueled my mother's frustration. She felt he was being passive and uninterested in the family's well-being. My sisters, influenced by my mother's perspective, began to view my father as the problem. One evening, after a particularly heated argument about my father's long work hours, my mother made a drastic decision. "That's it, we're better off without you," she shouted. My sisters, feeling empowered by my mother's stance, echoed her sentiment. I watched in disbelief as they packed my father's bags and demanded he leave. My father, hurt and overwhelmed, quietly complied and walked out the door. In the immediate aftermath, my mother and sisters felt a sense of empowerment and relief. They believed that without my father, the household would be more harmonious and manageable. My mother took charge, assigning new responsibilities to each of us. Sarah, the eldest, was to help with finances, and Emily was to assist with household chores. However, as the days turned into weeks, the initial sense of triumph began to fade. The household dynamics had shifted dramatically, and the absence of my father left a void that was increasingly difficult to ignore. My mother struggled to balance work and home responsibilities, and the financial strain became apparent. Sarah, despite her best efforts, couldn't manage the bills as effectively as my father had. Emily found it challenging to keep up with the chores, and the house soon fell into disarray. I found myself caught in the middle, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. My father had been my anchor, and his absence left me feeling adrift. I could see the strain taking its toll on my mother and sisters, but they were too proud to admit they might have made a mistake. The turning point came one particularly difficult month when the bills piled up and the car broke down. My mother, exhausted and frustrated, realized she couldn't handle everything alone. The family finances were in disarray, and the emotional strain was becoming unbearable. It was in these moments of struggle that the contributions my father had made began to surface. My mother found a stack of unpaid bills that my father had been meticulously keeping track of, along with notes on the budget and plans for future expenses. She realized he had been silently managing our finances, ensuring we never went without. My sisters, too, began to see the impact of his absence. The house was messier, meals were less frequent, and the sense of stability we once took for granted was gone. The realization hit hard. My mother and sisters began to feel deep regret for their actions. They had been so focused on their grievances that they failed to see the silent sacrifices my father had been making for the family. The regret my mother and sisters felt was profound. They struggled without my father's support, both financially and emotionally. My mother, once so confident in her decision, now felt a deep sense of guilt. She realized she had acted impulsively, driven by anger and frustration. My sisters, who had sided with my mother, also began to see the error of their ways. They missed the quiet strength and stability my father had provided. The emotional toll on the family was immense. Arguments became more frequent, and the once united front my mother and sisters had presented began to crumble. I watched as my family struggled, torn between anger at my father for leaving and regret for having pushed him away. It was a painful time, filled with silent tears and unspoken apologies. Eventually, my mother decided it was time to make amends. She gathered us together and admitted her mistake. It was a humbling moment, and it took great courage for her to reach out to my father. She called him, her voice trembling with emotion, and asked him to come home. My father, surprised and cautious, agreed to meet and talk. The reunion was tense, but filled with genuine apologies and heartfelt discussions. My mother and sisters expressed their regret, acknowledging the sacrifices he had made for the family. My father, though hurt, listened and began to understand their perspective. Rebuilding trust and relationships was a slow process. It took time, patience, and a lot of open communication. My father returned home, and we all worked together to create a more balanced and understanding household. My mother and sisters learned to appreciate my father's contributions, and my father learned to be more vocal about his needs and feelings. The experience changed us all. Our family dynamics improved as we learned the importance of communication, understanding, and appreciation. We became stronger, more united, and more grateful for each other. In the end, the journey through regret and redemption taught us valuable lessons about the power of forgiveness and the importance of family unity. We emerged from the ordeal with a renewed sense of love and respect for one another, ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. Thank you for being a part of Narrative Stories. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. We are committed to bringing you the best in storytelling. What kinds of stories would you like to see next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.